Hello there everyone, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this Rosebud macrame ring. And this is what it looks like. So you have this cute little rosebud right there in the middle, that's the feature of the ring. And then a nice and simple ring band going all the way around. That's also comfortable to wear because obviously it's all cord and it's going to mold to your finger. So that's what it looks like. So this is one I've already done, it fits me. So you have that rosebud is just a feature. And then just that ring band going all the way around, and you can really make it to fit whatever you want to size wise. So that's what it looks like. So I do have a bracelet that I did originally where this actually matches it if you want to make a set, so you can check that out. But otherwise, if you want to learn how to make the ring here, then keep watching. So all we're going to need for this ring is the cord itself. Now what I'm using is this 1mm satin cord, and it's got this lovely burgundy colour. You can obviously choose whatever you want to. Now just be aware though, if you're using a different kind and thickness of cord, it might give you slightly different results. So let's get a cord ready and let's get started. So then the lengths of the cord that we're going to need is 6 lengths here, or about 45 centimeters each. And then what I've done is I put all the ends together so they're even, and then I measured about 20 centimeters in from one end, and I just tied a regular knot just to help hold all the cords together, and this is our starting point. So I then took the lengths of cord here and attached them onto my project macrame board, and using these T-pins as well to fasten it down with, so it's going to be nice and secure to work with. And then the first thing we need to do is make the little rosebud in the middle, so I'm using these longer lengths here, and I'm just going to separate them out a bit. So we have kind of more or less 3 cords to each their own side. So we have these 2 right here in the middle. Now what we need to do is start making some double half hitches. Just getting these a bit out of the way. So I'm using the 2 in the middle right next to each other. Now first of all I'm going to cross my right one over my left one, and then that left one comes underneath the right one. So that's the working cord. So that means I need to use that to go around my finger here, so over the top of the cord, and then back around and underneath it. So basically that working cord loops around the holding cord just like that. Make sure it comes through the loop that it creates itself, because that's what creates the knot. And then tighten that all the way up, and then make another one the exact same way, just like that, just all the way up underneath that large knot right there with all the cords. Now that one is temporary, it's just a good way to start out. So now these 2 cords that we just used are kind of naturally going out towards their own side. So I'm just going to work with one at a time. Just going to go to the left first. Now I'm going to take the one that was the holding cord, then grab the next cord from the side, bring that underneath, and then do a double half hitch with that one as well in the exact same way, and tighten that right underneath the first one that we made. So now we're basically creating a row of knots here that's going at an angle out to the side, so in this case out to the left. Take the last one on this side, also bring that underneath, and then do a double half hitch with that as well. So you can see we have a row of knots there. And then we need to go back to the very first working cord that we used, so the one basically at the top, put the other ones out of the way. Then that one is going to be the holding cord, the same as the one we just used here, but out towards the opposite side. So first of all, just take one of the loose ones on the side, bring that underneath this holding cord, and then make a double half hitch. And all we've done now is swapped hands. So the hands are basically swap jobs. So the one that we're holding where it's coming over is always the holding cord, and the one that's making the knot that's coming underneath the holding cord is the working cord. Now when you tighten this knot, make sure you hold this out at an angle, so the angle that we're getting here in this little corner is going to be about 90 degrees. Another one here to make the double half hitch. And where this row of knot goes is determined by how you hold the holding cord. The last cord, bring that in, so underneath, and then do the double half hitch. And again, hold this holding cord in the direction that we want this row to go. Just like that. So there we have this little corner, you could say, and these working cords coming in towards the middle. And then we need to go back to the 2 very middle cords. So these 2 are the 2 right on either side of that inner corner. Again, I'm going to cross my right one over my left one, so the left one is coming underneath, and that means that's the first working cord. So do a double half hitch with that one, the exact same way as we did the other knots up here. You just tighten that all the way into that corner till it won't go any further, basically, just like that. And then you take the next working cord from that side, bring it underneath, and just continue the row. And this row now is going to be right underneath the first one that we made, just like that. Just tighten that nicely, and don't take that last one just yet. That was the holding cord, because then we need to go to the other side. Take the first one of the working cords we used for this row we just made. That's coming out towards the right side. Now the working cord from the last row on this side is naturally wanting to come underneath there. So just make a double half hitch with that. And that is basically replicating what we just made, but on this side. So again, we'll create a little corner in there. And we now have 2 holding cords on either side, and then those 2 last ones in the middle. And then we'll go to the middle ones again, and we'll basically start doing the same thing. So the right one crosses over the left one, make a double half hitch with the working cord, tighten right into that corner, just like that. And obviously we can't really go any further with this now in the same way. So this half of the rosebud is now done. So what we need to do is replicate this, but on the other side. So this little row that we just did is the very middle of it. And then what we're going to do is take, and just kind of work on one side at a time, starting on the left side, the very middle one. So that's that second holding cord. We need to kind of hold that and then bring the one from the middle underneath it out towards the side. And then I'm going to do a double half hitch with the one that's coming underneath and tighten that. And then as I'm doing that, I want to try and make sure I get a curve into these rows now. So I'm starting to hold my holding cord a bit more inwards in the opposite direction than before. So you can see this is kind of starting to curve. And then we also need to take that working cord and bring it underneath the outer holding cord. And then do a double half hitch with that. And then tighten that. And then that just kind of follows the curve of the first row that we just made. So that's the one. Go to the other side and do the same thing. So that's the cord that was a working cord for that little tiny row in the middle. That needs to go underneath the middle one of these 3 on this side. And then just do the same thing, but obviously now it's curving in the opposite direction. So kind of inwards towards each other. Like that. And then the final holding cord, bring that over. And do a double half hitch around that. So there we go. You can see we're getting those curves in place. Again, just separating the cords out. And again, we now go back to the 2 middle cords. So that's these 2 here. And then I'm going to cross my right one over my left one. That's just what I always naturally do. You can also do the opposite, just make sure you stay consistent throughout. Then these 2 I need to make a double half hitch with the working cord. And tighten that. You want to make sure you tighten these nice and tight together so the ends of these 2 rows that they're coming from end up meeting up nicely. And obviously secured in place with this knot now. So you can see we now connected these curves together completely. So we have a point on either end there. And then we just need to finish off the outer row as well. So I just start on one side, I take the holding cord from that row, bring it over the cord that's coming out from the tip, but going towards that side, so that comes underneath and that's in the working cord. I make a double half hitch to be able to continue this row here. Again, just following the curve of the other one. And you can see we're working our way towards the point of that one as well. Same thing on the other side. So you take the working cord here, make your double half hitch. So we're getting to the point now where all we have to do for that final outer row is connect them just like we did with the previous one. So again, cross the same one over the other one that you've been doing throughout, and then connect the 2 rows with this knot by kind of pulling them together as well. So this is now the complete rosebud. And now we need to move on to make the ring band. So first of all, I just want to separate out the 2 outer cords. So the ones right there from the middle, one on each side. Just put them out of the way because we're done using them. And then we have these 4 that we need to start making this side of the ring band with. So I'm going to have the 2 cords that are there in the middle, right from the tip, coming straight down. And then the outer 2, one on each side, are going to be the working cords. So what I'm going to do is make square knots here. So I just take my left one first. You can also start on the right side, it doesn't matter, just as long as you stay consistent. And then the right one goes over that and goes underneath both of those holding cords in the middle. Make sure you catch both of them. and then up through the loop on the other side, and then you tighten this all the way up below the point of the rosebud, and then do the other side for a complete square knot, just like that, and just pull the holding cords a little bit there so it sits nicely. And then that's your first square knot. So I'm basically just going to continue making square knots for the rest of the ring band, but we obviously also kind of need to make it a full connected ring band. So what I'm going to do first of all here is make 3 square knots on this side, because we also need to get rid of one of the holding cords, so we kind of just want to be left with one. So this is now 3 square knots, and I'm then going to take a pair of scissors here, because I then want to cut off one of these holding cords. It doesn't matter which one, but we just want to cut it off here, just slightly below that last knot. I just like to leave just a short little end like that, and then I want to make some more knots here, capturing that in place. And just cutting it off here. It's nice and secure still because it's all caught up within all these knots, so it's not going to come undone by cutting that off. Then as I'm tightening the first half of this new knot, I'm just making sure that I catch that little end so it gets caught inside of the knot. So that's one more, and then I'm just going to make another one again. So I made 3 first, and then I cut off the holding cord, and then I make another 2. Just like that. I just like to kind of pull sometimes at the holding cord and push against the knots. Straightens it out nicely. So this is now the one side to this point. So what you want to do now is take this off the board. You want to undo this knot. So there was, like I said, that was temporary. And then you want to repeat this part of the ring band with the square knots on the other side as well. And then I'll show you when we get to the point where we need to connect it. So this is then what the piece looks like now. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to flip this around, and then we have the 3 cords here on either end. So obviously those are the ones that we use to make the square knots with, but then also the holding cord. So what I'm going to do is we need to bring the 2 ends together, but obviously we need to connect them. So I'm just going to hold it like this and kind of have the working cords going out to each their own side. And then we need to bring the 2 holding cords together. They're naturally now crossing over each other like this when they meet up. So I'm going to bring the bottom one here up next to the one that's going downwards, so from the top, and I like to bring it underneath the working cord as well, and just out to kind of next to one of the sides of the square knots. So then what we have here in the middle is the 2 holding cords lying next to each other, and I'm going to keep holding them like that. Now it can be a little bit fiddly because everything is a bit loose, but just kind of make the first knot and they'll become a lot easier to work with. So because I'm on this side here, I'm just going to use these 2 working cords to make my first knot with, and I'm doing it below where I'm holding on to the cords to make sure I go around both of those holding cords. So we've now got 2 holding cords again, which is why really I wanted to get rid of the one during the ring band so we didn't end up with more than this. And then I put my left one over both of them, and then take the right one over that, underneath both of them, which means going through the ring band, and then come up on this side. So it's just the exact same technique of making a square knot. We're just making sure we're grabbing both of these holding cords, and obviously kind of doing it in the free, because how we're holding it, it's a little bit fiddly. I tighten that, and it goes right underneath the previous square knot that we made on this side. And you can see it's already now going to be much easier to make the knots. So we just take from the other side to make the other half. Again, making sure we go around both of these 2 holding cords as we're making the knot. And just go through the ring band when we need to go underneath them both. Like that. So that was one square knot incorporating the other holding cord. So I'm just going to make one more here. Also to make sure it becomes nice and secure. Obviously we now need to also get the right length for the size of the ring that we want. So I'm just going to make these 2 square knots after incorporating the other holding cord. And we basically, like I said, just continued the row of the square knots on this side. And then what we want to do is I want to flip it around and repeat the exact same thing on the other side. Because right now one of them is still loose, you can see, whereas it's the other one that's connected on both ends. So I'm going to take that holding cord that's still loose, bring it, just make sure they kind of stay lined next to each other, flat next to each other. And then again bring it up the side and underneath the working cords. And on this side we then have the two holding cords in the middle. Just also make 2 square knots around them on here. Just make sure it sits right before I tighten it. And then that just continues the row on this side. And again I'm going to make 2 here just to equal the other side, because I do want to make sure that I kind of have them nice and even. So that's the first one. And then the other one, just going through that ring band every time. Make the second half to make it a full square knot. Just like that. And just pull it so all the knots sit nicely and neatly. And you can see what we then have is those holding cords that we brought around are now coming out in between some of the knots within that ring band on the inside. That's why I like to kind of make sure they go underneath the working cords, because that makes sure that they go on the inside of the ring band, because that's obviously just going to hide them more when we want to get rid of them. So now what we have are these 2 kind of bare cords, you could say. So what we want to do now is just tighten this. Now this is also, like I said, where you want to then make sure to judge your size. So you can either make sure you have a ring mandrel handy or just use your finger to measure against. So all you want to do is I'm grabbing hold of the knots there, and then just one side at a time I'm taking that holding cord on this side and then just start to pull at it. And then you can see that pulls it tighter and then brings the 2 sides together. Same with the other side. You can just do a bit at a time if you want. And you can always pull it tight a little bit like this and then measure it and see the size, because you can either completely pull them tight if it is the right size, and then obviously it's complete. But if you then want to judge regarding the size, you can have a little bit of space left, put it on your ring mandrel or your finger, and if you need to make a few more knots, you can always then pick your working cords back up and make a few more knots. But then otherwise what you need to make sure to do is that either make knots or pull these tight until your 2 sides here meet up perfectly in the middle. So now pull the 2 sides of the ring band nice and close together there. You can see we have one full circle with that rosebud in the middle. So then what I just want to mention is about the size as well. So if you're using the same material as me, because obviously, like I said, you can use a different one that might give slightly different results, but if you're using the same one, what I have is I made 3 knots initially, and then 2, and then another 2 at the end. So that's 7 in total, and then this gives about a size M in the ring in UK sizes. So just kind of for reference, but like I said, it's easy enough to judge it for yourself if you need a smaller or a larger one. But then all that's left to do now is get rid of all these excess cords. And I'm going to be doing that in the same way with all of them. So first of all, I'm just going to get a pair of scissors out again, because we need to cut off the excess. But because I'm using a synthetic cord, I can also then singe the ends using a lighter. But if you're using a natural cord, you're going to have to use something like glue. Obviously, you can also do that by choice, but in this case, I'm using a lighter to singe them off, and it's also going to secure them in place. So first of all, we need to cut down the excess, so we have about 1 or 2 millimeters left. Just going to start with these ones here on the side. Just something like that. So just a short little end left on whatever cord you're cutting off. And then I'm going to take my lighter, get all the others out of the way so I'm not burning anything I don't want to. And then just gently singe them down. And then I like to use my lighter to kind of roll against them. And you can always just keep adjusting this until you're happy, because then that really seals it in place, so we don't have to worry about it coming undone. But also it makes a quite nice and seamless finish. And then at the end I like to just kind of take my fingers and push it down. Now obviously, because it's a lighter, do make sure you're careful, because it does get a bit hot, because it is a naked flame. But that's why, like I said, if you prefer, you can also just use glue. So you would just put glue around the ends and then obviously cut off the excess. But just singe it down. And I like to press in with my finger at the end, because First of all, it does cool down really quickly, so it's usually not too hot, but just because it kind of molds it in place a little bit better and make sure to seal it in place. And also you want to make sure it's nice and comfortable to wear. So just do that with all of the lengths. So this is then what the final ring looks like. So we have that rosebud right there in the middle, you can see. That's the feature of the piece. And then a simple ring band going all the way around. And obviously because it's knots that we made, it's nice and sturdy, but because it's cord that we used, it's still also nice and comfortable to wear. So it's going to mold to your finger as you're wearing it. So that's what the ring looks like, a pretty nice and simple tutorial. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. You can check out loads of other tutorials that I have on my channel, do loads of different mediums as well. But otherwise I really hope you enjoyed this one here, and thank you very much for watching.